Okay, a very popular request in teaching you how to find and hire a good builder for your renovation project. I'm Dave, founder of Arkiplan. Let's get into it. Some of you may have seen Stacey Solomon's new program, Renovation Rescue. It's a stark reminder that if you mess this phase up, you can end up on the telly too, crying in a half-built house in loads of debt. Let's not do that. The first thing you want to do, you need to do research. I would recommend Trustpilot and Google reviews are great. Yell is still good because there's old school tradespeople still using it. Definitely have a look on those three. Local pages on Facebook and Nextdoor, things like that. If you put a message up on one of those sites and you state exactly what building work you're going to be doing and a name keeps appearing, it probably means they're good. The odd name appearing is probably just the friends and family of the builder recommending them, so just ignore that. Friends and family recommendations is absolutely huge. They're going to have experienced the whole process with the builder and they have no incentive to give you wrong information. An often overlooked avenue as well for finding a good builder is actually other tradespeople. If you've ever had a good plumber, a good electrician, a good carpenter, they are more likely to have worked with good builders. Reach out to them and ask them, do you know anyone? Who have you worked with that you would genuinely trust? And also, if they're willing to put their name on the line, it normally means that the builder is actually very good. Don't be afraid to ask builders to see their credentials. So you may ask them, do you have the relevant insurances? Now, professional indemnity insurance is the one you want. Also ask them the amount that it covers. Very important. They may have gone for an extremely low amount just to say they have professional indemnity cover, but actually it doesn't cover if they were to damage the building that you live in. It may not cover all of it. Are they members of any federations, guilds or trade bodies? Now, they don't necessarily have to be members of those, but if you're speaking to a few, it's just something to add to the pros and cons list. You have to remember here that you don't need qualifications to be a builder. You just need a van. So it's up to you to filter these people out, the bad ones from the good, unfortunately. When you ask these builders for either their insurance documents or their credentials, actually follow up and get the evidence. Cowboy builders will just tell you anything to get the job. Just get them to email a PDF document over to you. Next, you actually want to interview them. I always say to people, you almost want X Factor auditions. Have a day or two where they're just coming in. Don't be afraid to speak to 5, 10. Actually have a plan before they arrive. Have a list of questions that you want to ask them. You really want to work out from them, are they genuinely interested in this project? Do you have a good rapport with this person? You're going to be dealing with this person for many months probably. Trust your gut. How is this person likely to handle a minor dispute? No matter how well a build project goes, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be some crossed words at some point. It always happens. Are they punctual? Do they show up to the meeting on time? Do they show up with any obvious red flags? It can be quite easy when a builder shows up, but if you've got good chat with them, good rapport, the price is right, you could unconsciously be avoiding red flags that appear. And I'm saying this from experience. This is a true story. I once had a builder show up to quote for a project that I was building, and within 2 minutes of arriving in the house, had asked me if I had any beers. So that person, the price was right, everything else was right, but what sort of person shows up to quote for a job and is acting all professional but can't seem to resist asking you for a beer? It's extremely strange. What red flags are there during the hiring process that I would look out for? Promising the world. Look, stuff costs money and stuff takes time. If this builder is basically saying, yeah, easy, no problem, yeah, the prices are going to stay the same, yeah, we'll have it done by Christmas. There are obvious situations where they may be telling the truth. But if it's always yes, and there's no mention of cost increases, there's no treading carefully with timelines, probably desperate for the work because they're not very good, so not many people have hired them. Another one is, can they start immediately? Huge red flag. Why haven't they got any work on? You're most likely going to have to wait for a good builder to start on your project. Now, there are obvious exceptions here. Some builders have cancellation. Sometimes other clients have postponed their project because their planning permission hasn't come in. So obviously there are exceptions. Are they proactive about a contract? Now, if they're not proactive with the legal documents, it's a huge red flag because a contract is there to protect you, but it's also there to protect them. And if they're not bothered about protecting themselves, I would be extremely worried. Also helpful to think what red flags are there at the start of a project, because you still have time to cut and run. You still have time to end the contract at that early stage. They may have just done a bit of demolition work and you could still change your mind. Red flags during the start of the project, I would say, do they have trade accounts with builders merchants? You can tell this by, are they sticking to the payment terms that you agreed? If they're asking for more money than was originally agreed really early on in the process, it normally means they haven't got the money to buy the materials. Or they're paying subcontractors from previous projects, things like that. If you can tell that they're going out there to pay cash for materials, good builders will have good credit scores, which means they'll have trade accounts, so they can actually postpone those payments. Like I said, if they're changing payment terms early on, huge red flag. This is only going to get worse throughout the rest of the project. They've already broken the contract at this early stage. Get out. There's this thing called the sunk cost fallacy. You may be thinking, we've spent all this time, we've put all this effort in, how can we waste it by ending the contract now and starting the whole process again and finding a new contractor? It is a fallacy. The more time that you spend with this person, you're going to be investing more and you're going to be opening yourself up to more disputes, more issues down the line. The best thing you can do is actually put a pause on the project. And I understand this isn't possible if they've done a lot of demolition work. It's going to be up to your personal judgment on whether you can end the contract or not. But if you've got huge red flags up front, it may be best to find somebody else. Are subcontractors showing up on site and doing multiple trades? Now, I've seen this before. We've got the plumber come in to do some sort of first fix pipe work, and before you know it, he's on the roof laying plywood. This actually happens. All it is the main contractor, he's finding the cheapest possible subcontractors he can, and often they're inexperienced, they're just handymen. Good subcontractors cost good money. So just bear that in mind if you're seeing a carpenter showing up and he's now tightening the radiator. Are there days when nobody shows up on site? Now, there are obviously exceptions to this as well. If it's terrible weather, if they've pre-warned you that there's another job they're finishing and they're not going to be there on this day and this day, the worst is when they tell you, we're going to be here every day for the next 3 months and we're going to get it done. And then suddenly there's 3 whole days where nobody shows up and you can't get hold of them. If you get the slight whiff of that early on in the project, it's just going to get worse. As the project progresses, the builder has more and more power because you can't finish the project without them. So suddenly, if these red flags are happening early on in the project, they're just going to get worse and worse down the line. So you have to be proactive in seeing it, in detecting these red flags, and really, at the bare minimum, threatening to end the contract if these things continue. So I think that's it. I hope that's been helpful.